3 All-Star awards and 2 All-Ireland senior hurling medals. My next guest is one of the greats of the game. He stepped down from the Tipperary team at the start of the year, only to make a controversial return in May. Would you welcome, please, Corbett, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Lar?
Very good, Ryan, very good.
The last time we sat talking to each other, here at least, we spoke about your bar.
Yes.
The pub. How's it all going?
Well, I took tonight off, Ryan, to come up and see yourself. I got the night off anyway, so...
Did you manage to have a word with people to get the night off?
Well, I'm well covered. Well covered. I suppose, yeah, the last time I sat here, I was with 2 of my own colleagues, Pádraig Maher and Conor O'Mahony, and we were going to sit here and talk in a bar. And I suppose, just looking back on it, there's a great decision to make. And I suppose in the last couple of months there has been, we've turned the corner and things are going well.
Things are picking up a bit,
Things are picking up a bit, all right. I suppose we're looking forward to the Christmas, like anybody involved in business there, I suppose, in the pub trade.
Hard to run a pub in these times, I'd imagine. Well,
I suppose when I was getting involved, just say with a business partner back home, there was pubs around us that were closing down. And every time we turned on the news, there was businesses closing down. So we said we'd make a go of it. We worked very hard at it. And I suppose I'm passionate about it, and I really want to make it work. It was the first time I ever got an opportunity in my life, something that we could do on our own to try and make it work. And I suppose in the tough climate that everyone is involved in at the minute.
Sure. Do you know how to change a keg?
Just about.
OK. Just checking. So you're hands-on?
Hands-on. I suppose that's very, very important to be hands-on. I suppose in the back of my mind when I was here a few years ago, I thought Lar Corbett, after winning an All-Ireland final and scoring 3 goals, getting hurler of the year, I thought just putting the name over the door and things were going to look after itself. I was very, very naive back then. It was the biggest mistake I made. You
learned a lesson the hard way?
I learned a huge lesson the hard way.
What did you do wrong?
Well, I suppose I didn't give the attention to detail. I wasn't given the time there. When I took a step back from hurling during the year, when I went back and I went hands-on in the pub, I suppose I'm ashamed to say that I wasn't even able to use the till in the pub. Because I was there, I was a face, I thought it might work. It didn't work. It was a huge mistake at the time, but I learned a lesson the hard way, right?
You stepped down, you just mentioned from the Tipperary team at the start of the year. Why did you do that?
Well, I had no option to step down. If I didn't step down, the pub wouldn't just involved in us. There's 2 floors in the pub. There's a ground floor and there's a first floor. If I didn't step down, there was no way was I going to see to the end of 2012 as the pub being opened. It was definitely going to close. I thought by putting up Tipperary pictures, pictures of the Lee McCarthy Cup, pictures of my colleagues, Owen Kelly lifting the cup, I thought that was going to be enough to keep it going, especially in as they call the home of hurling Thurles, where it was founded.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough. So I suppose we looked at it, and I suppose myself and Kevin, who's here in the audience there tonight, we looked at it and we said, it's definitely not going to survive if we keep going the way we're going.
Were you worried about your own physicality or your own strength at that stage?
Well, I was very worried about myself. It's the first time in life there that I had an opportunity to do something on my own to see would it work.
Yeah.
And there's a huge thing, I suppose, being a fear of failure was really what was worrying about me. I wasn't giving it 100%. I couldn't give it 100%. And I said to myself, if it does fail, it's my own fault. So I said, if I'm going to give something, I'm going to give it 100%. And if it fails, then I don't mind. But if I can give anything 100%, that's really the way I work in life.
And regarding playing for Tipperary, were you fed up at all? Were you a bit bored? Did you feel there was time to give it a rest?
Well, I couldn't give it 100%. I couldn't give Tipperary, where I'm from, the team I love, Thurles Stars, where I live, I couldn't give it 100%. I couldn't give the pub 100%. So at the minute, the two of them were failing, from what I could see. So I had to take a step back to take control, to see what was wrong. Why are the customers not coming in? What can I do to change it around? And
when you say the 2 of them are failing, what's failing?
Well, I suppose the sport.
The sport?
The sport was
failing. And in what sense was the sport failing?
Just because I couldn't give it 100%. I couldn't give it the time that it needed.
So you're divided attention?
So I'm divided attention. Okay. I was running out of the pub at 5 o'clock. There's 8 staff at the minute in the pub. They had to be paid every Friday.
Right.
I didn't know where the money was going to come from. Kevin was taking up the can. He was doing everything. As I said, the last time I was here, the electrical that I was working as, working as an electrician, had all dried up. Everything. I didn't really know where to go or what to do.
Yeah. So you were kind of in a bind in many respects.
Well, I wanted to get it right. I had to get to the bottom of it to get it right, and I had to put the time in the pub just to get it right, to see where it was all going wrong.
Were you always destined to be a hurler? I mean, was that as a kid growing up?
As a kid growing up, I don't know. I think when you come from Thurles and if you come from Tipperary, the person either live on either side, you have a hurry, they're taking it out, and it's coming from Thurles and coming from it's kind of who you are. It's what you do.
Yeah.
We love the game. And I suppose I fell in and fell out with it as regards going to school, going to Dorlasog.
You played at school, obviously.
Played in school at a very, very low level, never really got much involved. And I suppose I would have to compliment my own mother there every time I wanted a hurley or a helmet or anything. Is she looked after me, and I suppose she gave me great support growing up and still does to this day.
Yeah, well, that's her there now, so give us a smile there, Mammy, and make sure she's all right. That's
Yeah.
more like it. At school then, off the pitch, were you good in school, in class? Did you enjoy it?
I was good at being the class messer and the class clown down the back and having the laugh and always quick with the joke, with the smart one.
Yeah.
But I suppose when I look back, and I suppose I speak about it in the book, I suppose it's a huge fear of mine when I was going to school. My biggest fear would have been asked by the teacher to stand up and read, do the spellings on the boards.
What were you afraid of?
Because I knew I wasn't able to do it.
Why
I knew
not?
I wasn't. Why I wasn't?
Yeah.
I just was not it. And I still to this day, I'd have the iPhone like everyone probably in the audience, and you go for the predictive text, and they can't find the word that you're looking for, even in the predictive text. So I struggled going to school. I found it very, very hard going to school. And even to this day, being involved in Tipperary dressing rooms, if I was to stand up, I've no problem just talking. But if I had to write on the board about tactics and that, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Because you wouldn't be able to get the spelling right and that kind of
spelling,
thing.
I would find it very hard with the spelling. Even with the reading there, I'd find it very, very slow with the reading. I struggle all the time with that, and I try and hide it. And I would definitely say going to school that I tried to hide all that. That's why I was probably the messer. And I suppose there's teachers looking into night at home and saying, yeah, I remember him. Yeah, he was a nightmare.
Because you mentioned in the book that there could be talk of dyslexia, and that maybe it was something that you suffered from without realising it.
Yeah.
Would that be something?
Because, I always say I would have loved to get checked out for it. And even to this day, I'd still love to get checked out as regards the difficulties that I had going to school. I think that I mightn't be too bad to talk or quick off the tongue down the back of the class, but don't ask me to get up and spell or read. When
you were selected to play for Tipperary, moving on to the ultimate selection for the team, that was an enormous moment for you. How did it feel?
Yeah, I suppose I was lucky enough to come from a good, strong hurling club, Thurles Sarsfields. We contested the county final in 2000, and I got a phone call from the Tipperary management at the time, which the manager would have been Nicky English.
Yeah.
And I suppose when I wasn't really getting a crack from anybody else, I suppose I didn't represent Tipperary at minor or under 21. And Nicky got on, he gave me a great start. It's something I'm very, very grateful for. If that didn't come at that time, who knows, I might have never got the opportunity.
And 2001?
2001, I was, as I say, I jumped on the bandwagon the right time.
Yeah.
Came in January with an All-Ireland in September, and we had great times. I was 20 years of age with an All-Ireland medal. I thought I had the world in front of me, but that's not the way. But it was a fantastic year. It was great.
So it was 9 years before you'd win again. Before we get to that, let's have a little look at what you do best, OK?
Huge one down towards Lark Corbett. He's got it. He's scored. A goal by Lark Corbett. On to Lark Corbett. They fire Hurley's at it, but nobody's able to stop Lark Corbett. And it's swept in the end, and it's finished in the back of the net. And Lark Corbett has got a hat-trick.
I suppose the big win then in 2010 would have had tasted differently, did it, to the original one?
Yeah, I would definitely say in 2010, I suppose Tipperary went through 7 or 8 years that we didn't really contest much in Croke Park. I suppose that was under kind of management that Liam Sheedy came in 2008, and that match that day was really 3 years in process, 2008, 9 and 10 all rolled into one. We lost the All-Ireland final in 2009. We thought we had a chance. We came back in 2010, so there was a lot of work went into that. And that probably meant more, because I knew what it was like to lose year after year, year after year. I never thought I'd get back to Croke Park, win an All-Ireland, but that feels like a long time ago now.
Well, because the following year, you obviously lost the final then, and the homecoming, you write very poignantly about the homecoming, the lash and rain. You know, we always watch the news, and there's the great victory for the winning team going home to the crowds. And you describe it as being a pretty dreadful journey home for you.
Yeah, but I suppose go back to 2010, and that was a real highlight. As when we came home in 2010, it was like the recession wasn't there. Yeah. It was unbelievable for about a month later. And I suppose when we came back then in 2011, it all hit home, because I suppose going into the stadium. That night, I suppose, the night before, when you lose a final, the same things take place. You either go to the Burlington, you have a bite to eat, you sit down, you have a few pints, a few drinks with your friends. That's it, you go to bed, you get up the following morning, probably having another few drinks down at the reception, waiting for the bus, waiting for the train to go back to Thurles. And really inside in Simple Stadium that night, I remember we were waiting to go out to the fans. And it all hit home as regards. I suppose, said to myself that I let Tipperary down, I'd let myself down, I hadn't performed on the day, and I just took it. I took it very personally. I took it very hard, like everyone else. But maybe I just kind of just said, think a little different, and it was a mistake that I made. That I ran out of the stadium that night, and I suppose
as you were being welcomed on as a team, you ducked out.
Yeah, just before being welcomed on, and it is definitely a regret that I have.
Where did you go?
I didn't know where I was going, and it was lashing rain, and I remember just saying I couldn't go out and face the Tipperary public that I thought that I had let down. And I said that the year before they came in their thousands in 2011, and looking back now, it is a regret that I have that I shouldn't have done it. But at the spur of the moment, I thought I wasn't thinking straight, or maybe I thought I was doing the right thing. So I left, and I remember running down the road in the spilling rain, and the nearest place I got into was just our own pub, and I suppose I just went into the office and I just sat down there and I said, what is after happening? What am I after doing? But I had a decision made then, and look, it's a regret that I have, and it was just something maybe spur of the moment I thought, but it's definitely a regret.
It's kind of been a bumpy year for you in many respects. You stepped down and you came back into the fold again, and then there were these two big performances that people have been talking about. Beating Waterford, you didn't score. Losing to Kilkenny, people said you marked the wrong guy, and then there were rumours put about the place, about you. What were those rumours?
I suppose the rumours, Ryan, was that I was betting again myself as regards in the Munster final again Waterford.
That you would walk into the bookie shop and bet that Tip would lose?
That was it. The bet was that I had €1,000 on it myself at 33-1 not to score.
How did you hear that about the rumour?
I suppose the rumours were going around town and people were talking, and I suppose it's like anything, all a rumour continues on, and I suppose if something sounds right, people say it must be right. Well, he didn't score, which is he definitely backed himself, so
you're a hero one year, the next year you're being accused of going into bookies betting against your beloved team. How does that feel?
Well, it's very, very hard to take, especially just say when it's not true. So it was very, very hard to take them. But I know that the people that were close to me and the people that believe in me, knowing that it wasn't true. But I suppose then when it was mentioned in just say RTE Sunday game, it started getting people's minds thinking again. But just to clarify everything, it's not true, and if the betting office, if they have the docket, I'd like to see it. They might give us a cut out of it.
OK. What's your status now with regards to the Tipperary team?
Well, the status, I suppose, at the minute is that the management of 2012 have stepped down. There's new management at the moment, and it's really up just to the new management who they think is good enough and who they're going to call back.
Would you like to be part of the team?
I loved all my years playing for Tipperary, and I still think that I have something to offer. People asked me in just say after the game this year, 2012, did I regret coming back?
Yeah.
And my answer is, that morning of the match, did I regret coming back? The answer is no. At half-time, we went into the dressing room at half-time against Kilkenny. Did I regret coming back? My answer is no. I'm not going to let 35 minutes of hurling dictate, did I regret coming back? I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
I loved Tipperary and I loved Thurles Sarsons, and I mightn't show it at the best times, but the inner feeling that I have when I represent my county and when I represent my club is unbelievable.
You sound like a man who's ready to wear the Tip jersey going into the next season.
I'm passionate about what I do. I've been representing Tipperary for the last 12 years and my club for the last 14 years. Did no one give that time to work in passion and give the time to do what they do? And I loved every minute of it.
And are you in a position now, in a way that you wouldn't have been before, to divide your time between your work in the pub and the team?
Well, I would definitely say when we went back, when I stepped back there just after January and I saw how difficult it was to turn at Christmas, I was delighted I made a step back to see what the problems were. Things have been going very well in Thurles for the last number of months. As I said already, we have 8 staff and hopefully that will grow coming into the new year.
Okay.
With proper structures put in place there that I can divide definitely my work at the minute and sport, even though our club are still involved in championship at the minute. So at the minute, there's a little bit more time there. How long that'll last, nobody knows.
Sure.
It's so tough in business at the minute for anybody that's involved in business.
OK, more pressingly, you've got a big event happening in December, and I'm not talking about the 25th and Santa. Tell us what's happening on the 15th.
Myself and Elaine are getting married on the 15th of December.
Well, congratulations, that's good news. And
thanks very much.
That's all good. Are you ready?
You better ask Elaine.
I might ask her later on and see how it goes. Lara, it's always good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Well done on the book, and it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks
Lara Corbett,
much.
ladies and gentlemen.